welcome to the stage the wonderful Dr. Daniel Kraft.
Hi. So whether we're trying to improve the health of ourselves, our community, or the planet, it helps to take a look at where we are in the present. Before we look into the future of health, it's helpful to look back a bit into the past. And I had the opportunity to kind of go back to the future. About a year ago, I returned to Massachusetts General Hospital, where I was lucky to do my residency in both internal medicine and pediatrics. And it was the 200th anniversary of MGH, a great institution. We had the reunion of our house staff, kind of like the guys you went to war with before those little 80-hour workweek restrictions they have now. And being in Boston, of course, we could complain about walking uphill both ways in the snow. And after one of the receptions one evening, I found myself in one of the famous places of healthcare history. This is the Ether Dome, the place where in 1846, this lucky gentleman was the first patient to actually get general anesthesia with a surgery. Kind of a big deal. And that room is now a shrine to medical history, hasn't changed at all. Exact same things. You can see the sponge that's there. And I wandered down a few steps, about 4 minutes away, to another place that was sort of frozen in time, the ward where I'd spent my first month as a young intern. And that was like unchanged as well. Some of the same alarms were beeping, some of the same nurses, some of the same patients, a little PTSD. The only difference was the intern was pushing around a little cart with a computer on it. Now, and my thought was, even at MGH, a great institution, healthcare sort of has been practiced as it's been for 100 years, kind of siloed, still stuck in departments and not often sharing information. And you know, while it's a great institution, medicine needs to change a bit. We're not just a bucket of body parts or a bunch of ologies. We can maybe reinvent and rethink how we practice healthcare across the planet, especially if we're going to address some of these major changes and challenges, such as the aging demographic and the lack of access to care, the fact that we have a huge primary care physician burden, for example, or the fact that we don't use information and this massive big data era that's coming towards us, and the challenges of regulatory and reimbursement. So we have big challenges. One of them is to shift our incentives from spending most of our care and dollars on the chronically ill and the acutely ill to shifting it to the left, to preventative care. And also the shift from providing medicine in the hospital and the clinic more into our homes and even into our own bodies. Now, in the 10 years or so since I came back to Stanford for fellowships, a lot has happened in the world, especially in technology, a lot of amazing advances, and many of those are actually happening at an exponential rate, often doubling every 6 months or a year. And that disruption is changing many industries and often creates opportunity and distress. It's like disrupt or die. And we've seen that across the technology spectrum. You see that in your everyday world. Many of these things would seem like magic 10 years ago, including that the human genome, which about a decade ago cost hundreds of millions per sequence, has dropped at twice the rate of Moore's law, to the point where I just had mine done, my exome done, for $1,000. So it's not just the speeding up of genomics, it's proteomics, it's measuring our environmental data, the GI bugs in our gut, biomarkers. Everything is coming down in cost, or not always in cost, but in power and efficiency. High-speed computing, powered by Moore's law, is enabling us to see inside the body, allows surgeons to integrate in real-time 3D reconstruction. We can now, for example, look inside our brains and not only appreciate the amazing anatomy, but the connectome, and soon maybe start to reimagine how we treat psychiatric disorders, for example, based on that understanding. We're taking old procedures which may be disrupted, like the cardiac angiogram, and now doing a quick 30-second CT scan, sending that data to the cloud and big computing and fast computing calculate, does this patient individual have a narrow blood vessel? And if so, how narrow is it? Can we do that without the wires and the hour in the cath lab and calculate how much flow they have? And can we individualize their therapy? Will they benefit from a stent or not, or a bypass? And that's happening from cardiology to the area of heart failure. Spin out from Stanford is now looking at how to do a quick MRI and do exactly or more than what ultrasound does, all by convergence of high-speed computing, imaging, and big data. Now, clearly the mobile phone is a great example you all have in your pocket of technology that's moved exponentially. In fact, we're sort of in obviously the iPad area. Most physicians have these now. I'm holding in my hand a $35 tablet, Android-based, that's now being shipped out of India. Imagine the potential to affect education and healthcare with a $35 tablet. And we're seeing that apps, in a sense, with these feedback loops, for example, in diabetes, can dramatically improve outcome. And I think it won't be too long before we start prescribing apps as opposed to just drugs and devices. In fact, we're adding gamification elements to make healthcare and prevention much more fun and enjoyable. Now, all this data is coming at us from new ways. The era of digital and mobile healthcare is here. And of course, our phones are not just for communication, but now we're adding devices such as an EKG monitor that's on the back of my iPhone case, or to be looking in your ears, or do eye diagnostics. There's the layering of this information that's been inspired by the Bay Area movement of the quantified self, which is now expanded across the planet. And it's now moved to really medically impactful devices. Many of you can go into an Apple store or a Best Buy and buy now connected blood pressure cuffs, scales that will tweet your weight, whether you want to or not, right? We're in the era of now conformal electronics and fit on your skin and enable connected data. The era of point-of-care diagnostics, which has been powered by microfluidics, can now enable amazing proficiencies. For example, a single microliter of blood can tell, in a global health setting, whether you have malaria, which type of malaria, what its genetics are, and what it will respond to for therapy. And now the convergence of do-it-yourself, where you can even, in some cases, print out those laboratory tests on a printer at the point of care. So we're entering this era where we'll have a digital checkup from anywhere, and overlapping that with telemedicine provides great promise for healthcare anywhere on the planet. So there's this layering of data now. It's not just, it's even in the devices now that are implanted in our bodies. You know, there's now IP addresses for connected pacemakers. So imagine I get a text saying, Daniel, go to the bank and take out $400 or I'm turning off your pacemaker, you know, oops. Or my friend Hugo here who has an implantable defibrillator, but the company who owns it won't give him his own data. What if we can start to unsilo this data and make it connected and useful? Now, as clinicians and as healthcare providers, we have a massive amount of information coming at us now. How do we grok that? How do we make sense of that? As Vinod Khosla spoke earlier, how do we make ourselves smarter, even if you're a nurse practitioner or a village worker? Well, now we're in the emerging era of artificial intelligence. Many of you may have seen IBM Watson beat the pants off the two champions in Jeopardy a year or two ago. And I like to call this not AI, but IA, intelligence augmentation. And that's starting to impact things across healthcare. And I think as it converges, as we get sensors everywhere, for example, in our cars, like the OnStar system, we'll have OnStar systems for our body, which will give us our own check engine lights and some power from there. Now, where is this heading? Some of you are Trekkies, remember, Dr. Spock and McCoy, right? They had the tricorder, but we're already building, essentially, high-powered ultrasounds that can fit in our pocket and do the power of $100,000 machines 10 years ago. I was on the team that helped develop the Tricorder X Prize, which just launched, and there's been over 200 companies already coming together to build a consumer-based tricorder. Here's a look from a local group, a company that's building this, and where they see this moving in the next year or two. Take a look.
Technology has given us an unprecedented window into the human body. But on a day-to-day basis, we're still in the dark about our own health. We are changing that.
You okay?
Do you feel okay?
What if instead of fearing the worst when you notice something out of the ordinary, you could identify the condition yourself? Getting the right diagnosis would save you worry
It says it's roseola.
and an unnecessary doctor's visit.
Rest at home. It's okay.
Instead of hearing about a viral outbreak on the news, imagine you got an alert that was tailored to your family's needs. It would also give you advice about what to do next. What if you had a way to identify what was wrong right away?
It says it's 103.8.
A way to get all of the information you need to understand the situation. And in serious cases, you would know when and where to seek help.
Yeah, it recommends taking it to the urgent care.
We're building a way for people to check their bodies as often as they check their email. It's all possible, and it's only the beginning.
So that's a look at where that can be in the near future, and that's enabling connected health, to be connected to your providers, to be connected to your social network, for example. Because as we heard from Dean Ornish and others, it's not our genetics that cause most of our illnesses, it's our behavior. What if we could have a virtual mirror and see our better selves if we kept in shape, or what would happen, if we didn't? I tried this out recently. This is what happens if I had 50 pounds, so I'll be a little careful, right? We're enabling those who are paralyzed to walk with this new era of exoskeletons, though we want to actually cure them. We're now in the era of stem cell therapy. Dr. Shin Yamanaka with UCSF Gladstone won the Nobel Prize last month for developing a new form of personalized stem cells that can hopefully cure paralysis and other ailments. And stem cells are being integrated with other fast-moving technologies like 3D printing, right? So we're starting to even 3D print basic structures like trachea that are seeded with the patient's own cells. And maybe in the future, we'll start to make integrated complex organs from your own stem and progenitor cells. Now, we can have great technology. The challenge, however, is how we pay for it. And another great quote from Dr. Ornish is that we don't practice evidence-based medicine, we practice reimbursement-based medicine. So we have to shift all those things. And we have to start looking at all these technologies that we maybe didn't even imagine 10 years ago and imagine where they may be in the future. Now, I've had a chance to look at this as the chairman of the medicine track for a new institution called Singularity University, based at NASA here in the Bay Area. And each summer, we bring together, and during one-week executive programs, executives and students to learn about AI, medicine, biotech, robotics, nanotech, space, energy, IT. Where are they all going? How can we apply those and learn about them to address big global challenges, including that of poverty, education, and global health? A couple of quick examples of some of the products that have come out of that is Matternet, developing low-cost unmanned aerial vehicles to deliver drugs or vaccines in areas without transportation. Or some medical students this summer in the program developed a glove that could do telemedicine and have all sorts of integrated sensors. In fact, because medicine is such an interesting part for people outside of healthcare, I helped form with Robin Farman Farmi and FutureMed, where we bring together physicians, clinicians, educators, pharmacists, big pharma, IT device, and other folks to look at where technology can take healthcare into the future. Okay, it's bringing new people into healthcare. We're bringing beginner's mind, gamers, IT, big data. And we're even helping with designers that come in, because we need to apply design thinking if we're going to take all these technologies and apply them in smart ways. So for example, if I wanted to fly from here to New York in my car, I wouldn't put wings on it. I might want to have a jet fighter or a 747, but the jet is not enough. We need a system. What can we learn from other fields? Let's say aviation. Well, I've been a pilot since college. I'm learning to fly. Great takeoff, landing wasn't good. But later, when I was a resident, I joined the Air National Guard as a flight surgeon, so I got to take care of the fighter pilots both in California and in Massachusetts. And there's lots of lessons to learn from the aviation world, particularly that of aviation medicine. How can we look at the lessons from checklists, for example, and taking those to the operating room has been pioneered by Atul Gawande and others, and we can now reduce morbidity and mortality by 30%. That's the simple checklist, and some of those are being appified as well. We're learning that in the world of flying, it's gotten safer and safer as more and more of us fly, and that's been instigated by simulation. Every pilot goes to simulation training every year. Now we're having our medical students and anesthesiologists and surgeons learn with simulation, including how to simulate which drugs are going to work, or to simulate pandemics, for example. And we have amazing sim centers, so instead of see one, do one, teach one, it'll be see one, sim one, sim one, sim one, and then maybe do one. Or leveraging the idea of heads-up display. In the pilot world, we can take an analog cockpit and now switch it to glass and present that data smartly to the pilot, which needs different information if you're about to land into a mountain. Hopefully the sound's up. Here, it's going to give you a cue. There's a cue. It's going to tell you, pull up, or you're going to hit something. Or you need different information if you're in a dogfight. So imagine the dashboards we're starting to have in our car, which help you to maintain your gas mileage or whether to turn right or left. What if you had a healthcare GPS buddy that was pointing in the direction? Though we still want just enough information, not too much information, right? How about this era now of different ways of seeing? Well, people are working on assisted living contact lenses, so maybe one day we'll see our world in new ways, but we're almost to the world of the Google Glass, right? Imagine when we can see our world in powerful new ways. That has interesting implications. Maybe you're out on a date and you get the Wingman app and you can maybe get a little heads up on what's going on, but we can see our world in new ways. Maybe we can reinvent that technology in new ways for healthcare, right? Maybe we're going to see our patients with new lenses. Maybe you're going to see your diet in new ways, sort of the before and now the after, and maybe there can be little cues on that as well.
Pull up, pull up.
Cues, pull up.
Pull up, pull up.
Now, one last example would be radar. What if we can see what's happening with other patients around the world? What if we can see the traffic, where the thunderstorms are? Just like with the app Waze, where they can build the entire map of Rome with the drivers. Where are the traffic jams? What's the right route to work? How do you avoid the cops? What's the safest path? So crowdsourcing data is going to get increasingly important, and that's just one of many examples. So in summary, we've kind of been flying blind in medicine. It's been sort of reactive and intermittent data. Now we're starting to integrate massive amounts of new information, omics, environmental data, crowdsourced data. We can start to apply like flu trends and see where the storms are, see the bioweather map, apply information about your exact community to a particular patient or yourself, for example. And I think we can leverage our social network in new ways to understand perhaps, maybe who to shake hands with or not that day based on other cues. So it's a brave new world. We'll have new dashboards and new steering wheels to impact our planet's health. And I think by integrating systems medicine, contextual healthcare, big data, and even design thinking, we can bring on a new world of global health. We're even starting to do that with crowdsourcing for Foldit, for example, for determining what's the formation of a protein that might be used in diagnostics or therapy. Or in my world of oncology, personalized oncology, where we can determine the exact tumor, its complete genome, and crowdsource with AI and other systems the best personalized response. And maybe in the future, if we can unlock these silos, we can not only just be organ donors, we can start to be data donors as we move into the future. So I hope I've encouraged you briefly to look at the exponentials, understand where disruption could be coming from and the power of convergence, that we can start to redefine medicine in new ways, apply design thinking and new elements as we move through this world and we try and create a better and healthier planet. And as Alan Kay said, in many ways, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. But those of us in the audience and those online and those watching know actually the best way to predict the future is to go out there and create it. So I encourage you to take these tools, let them fly, and let's create a safer, healthier planet. Thank you.